How are you doing, mate? 欢迎收听 Excuse 英国腔。
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, we stay true to our roots. Our cod and haddock is always going to be the best seller. On Fridays, especially Fridays in tradition in the UK, fish and chips is the go-to meal on the Friday. So dated back to the early 1800s. So it was a consequence of a rapid development of trawl fishing in the North Sea.
Right.
So when the railways and the ports all started connecting, it was the go-to meal from there. I mean, the tradition of eating fish and chips dates back, as I mentioned, to the 1800s, and it was actually brought in by Jewish immigrants. Oh. And it was the go-to wholesome meal for the railway workers, for the coal miners. And since then, it's just been evolved. It's always seen as the rustic, wholesome meal, which families would go to at that time. And I'm glad the tradition is still kept. I mean, we've got other dishes as well. I don't know if you've known pie and mash. Obviously, we don't do pie and mash, but fish and chips is one of the popular ones.
Fish and chips, the iconic British cuisine you have most probably tried or almost 100% have heard, is very ubiquitous in the streets of the UK. But you know what? If you were only given one chance to taste it, which one should you go to? In this episode, Excuse英国腔 is with you virtually, taking Northern Line on London Underground to Angel Station. Because of the pandemic, I'm unable to taste a fish and chips restaurant in London, but fortunately, I've got a friend of mine to visit on behalf of me, a lovely fish and chips restaurant that has long been on my list. Just a stone's throw from Angel, let me present you, Ziya, senior staff from Fish Central, to tell all the fellow gastronomes what makes them tick the box. And here we go too, my lovely judge, Chia-ying, to tell us what she fancies most after her visit. Hi, Ziya. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. How are you?
Not too bad here in Taipei. And how's the weather in London?
Well, you know, the stereotypical weather in London, it's always raining and grey, so I'm hoping it will brighten up later on.
Okay, typically, right. Firstly, can you just briefly tell us whereabouts in London is Fish Central Restaurant?
So if you're not familiar to London, we are as central as it gets, really. So we're in between two stations. So we're in between Angel and Old Street. So they're in between each other. So it's about a 5-10 minute brisk walk from either side, from either station. So we're very central. To get to Oxford Street, again, if you're feeling brave, you could maybe walk it in half an hour. So we're quite central to most landmarks and hotspots. So we're fairly easy to find.
Oh, that's lovely. Is it on the high street?
So it's as probably some of the reviews that you've seen online, it is kind of off the beaten track somewhat. So it's not on the high street. We are kind of secluded, but it's, you know, really good accessible transport links, variety of hotels around us. So we've been around since 1968. So people have no problem finding us.
Wow, that's a long history. Why don't you introduce yourself and also the restaurant, please?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Ziya, and I'm here to obviously represent Fish Central. So we've been around since 1968, and it was started up by my uncle. So my uncle, his background is from Cyprus, and he immigrated over to the UK in the early 50s, right. And just purely simply for a better life, and fish and chips was you know, classified as the meal to go to, the wholesome food that working class members would go to, so we started up Fish Central since then. Started up with my father, so it's been running for our family ever since. So it's been over 50 years now. The tradition goes on. We're quite fortunate, really, because, you know, we're fortunate to have a customer base who's very loyal, and the food obviously that we produce is first class. So we're doing well. We're happy.
That's wonderful. Is the location the same throughout all the years?
The location has stayed the same. We haven't moved. So since we've started in 1968, we've been in the same location. We've built up a solid customer base, and many more happy years, hopefully.
Wow. If you calculate that's over 50 years, long enough for different generations to taste it. How did people think about fish and chips at Fish Central back in the old day?
So interesting you say that. I mean, when we first started off, we only had a couple of variety of fishes. We used to do cod and haddock. So that's the hardcore traditional fish and chips that people would go to. And over time, as trends change, generations, they move on, trends, it influences not only fashion or the industry, influences food as well. People like to try the newest captures of fish, and since then our menus evolved. So not only is it cod and haddock, but we do skate, Dover sole, halibut, and we do it in a variety of ways. And we tried to move along with the times, because I know we can't, as any business, you can't really stay back in 1968. You need to evolve with the times, and that's helped us move, and that's helped us survive, really. So, we've seen, certainly from my father and my uncle's point of view, we've seen people at that time when we first opened as kids coming in for a bag of chips, and now to this day they're still coming, but they're bringing their own kids. So we like to follow that tradition.
Yeah. That's lovely. So people came in to taste the traditional food, but as the time went by, your menu also expanded. And now, do you also see a lot of tourists come to your restaurant?
Absolutely. And that's purely because of the diverse range from our menu. So from tourists from some of the countries where they come from, it's very hard for them to get good quality fish, and we source our fish every morning from Billingsgate Market, so it's handpicked. We don't rely on a supplier. So my uncle, he makes effort. I mean, what is he now, bless him, he's in his 80s. He still makes the effort of waking up every morning and handpicking every single fish to ensure its freshness. And that's what makes us competitive, and people knows quality, and that's what we want to be associated with. So as I mentioned, the diverse range from our menu. We've got lobster, crayfish. And if you're not in a fish mood, as I said, we've obviously got a diverse vegetarian menu and also meat, but primarily it's fish. Yeah.
So basically just a wide range of seafood.
Correct. So so as I mentioned, we've got skate, Dover sole. You can cook it in a variety of ways. You can have it grilled. You can have it fried, pan fried. We've got a roast cod option.
Lovely.
So it's enough really to satisfy the fussiest of eaters. If they want it done in a certain way, we can try our best to accommodate all. But our unique selling point is the freshness and the quality, and it's not breaking the bank, as they say. Even though we're in central London, our prices are very, very reasonable, and that's why we've got a very, very good loyal fan base of customers, and they know that they're getting real quality and real value for money.
Well, in mega city like London, and you can taste the fresh seafood. I think that's quite rare, and it seems Fish Central manages to do that. Why don't you let us know what menu your customers can expect at your place? For example, some signatures.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, we stay true to our roots. Our cod and haddock is always going to be the best seller. On Fridays, especially Fridays in tradition in the UK, fish and chips is the go-to meal on the Fridays. But we're starting to see a lot of customers trying diverse parts of our menu, should we say. Grilled skate. So skate is a flat fish, very, 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 very soft texture. And it's almost like the stingray. Stingray. So we serve the middle part, which is tender, or even the wing. Halibut is a very steak-like fish, very beautiful, very in terms of texture. We tend to do that grilled or char grilled, depending on the capture that we get on the day. So I mean, every day our menu isn't the same. It really does depend on the quality of the fish that we're able to source. As I said, lobster. We normally do fresh lobster, so we show the customers a lobster, a variety of lobsters, and whichever they want to choose to eat, and we will cook that for them, and that's normally grilled or we can have a lobster salad with that. It's very, very diverse menu, and it does change on a daily basis to ensure its freshness.
And you just mentioned that the price at your place is quite affordable and the freshness is incredible. So can you just expand more on, what makes your restaurant tick the box?
We know we can't compromise on freshness of fish and the quality. There's so many places around that say that they do fish and chips and probably roughly about the same price as what we charge, but ultimately we want customers to keep coming back. We know what they're looking for. With some menus in different cuisines, I should say, some customers might not know how it should taste. However, with fish and chips, we know everyone knows how fish and chips should be. There's no two ways about it. So you either get it right or you don't. And the only way you get it right is by the quality and the freshness of the fish. So that's why we, invest heavily in making sure that we source the best quality fish from the markets every morning. We've got our trusted, reliable suppliers who we've been in contact with in collaboration for many years now, so they know what we look for. And that's how we've been around for so long, for 50 years. We cannot compromise on freshness. That's ultimately our philosophy in which we live on.
Well, that's incredibly cool. For customers who come from overseas, they might wonder why fish and chips, it's so emblematic, when it comes to British meal. Can you also talk about that, kind of give the audience some background history of why, this is highly associated with the UK?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say hi to the audience anyway. I don't think I've mentioned that, but especially we've got a large Taiwanese following. So ni hao to you, to all our friends, colleagues and customers. So fish and chips, it dated back to the early 1800s. So it was a consequence of a rapid development of trawl fishing in the North Sea. So when the railways and the ports all started connecting, it was the go-to meal from there. I mean, the tradition of eating fish and chips dates back, as I mentioned, to the 1800s, and it was actually brought in by Jewish immigrants. And it was the go-to wholesome meal for the railway workers, for the coal miners. And since then, it's just been evolved. It's always seen as the rustic, wholesome meal which families would go to at that time. And I'm glad the tradition is still kept. I mean, we've got other dishes as well. I don't know if you've known pie and mash. Obviously, we don't do pie and mash, but fish and chips is one of the popular ones. So that's one of the few dishes which has kept the tradition, the UK British tradition. They've enjoyed.
Wow. So that history and the tradition, and it evolves. So today we can still taste this fusion, really, of different influences. So what would the local customers react to fish and chips from your restaurant? I guess British customers are more savvy and more critical when it comes to the nuance between different offerings in the capital, right?
That's right. I mean, we know our customer base from many years of experience. We know that they want to be satisfied with the quantity and quality of the meal, especially the quantity. Some places, especially in the capital, you would argue you eat the meal and you're not full up, you still want to eat. But with us, you're guaranteed a wholesome meal, along with it, the quality as well. You mentioned about, diverse menus and nuances. We do get the same customers wanting to try other things as well. And we do offer the same offering, but it just in a slightly different twist to it, such as being grilled. Our roots are from the Mediterranean. So we as well as keeping to the traditional menu, we like to diverse and use wholesome ingredients and vegetables to combine flavors. As you said, the fusion is very important. So this is becoming more and more popular as well now. So that's how we're trying to cater for our audience and for our customers.
In Taiwanese culture, we tend to share dishes. Well, when I talk about sharing dishes, it was more of the case, before the pandemic. But I guess after the pandemic, this will, go on and on. So why don't you let us know? For example, there's a couple entering your restaurant and they would like to order 2 dishes. When they order the 2, they would share the 2. So that means you have to suggest they order 2 and they can kind of find the 2 dishes complement each other. What would that be, in your opinion?
Well, no customer is the same. So first of all, we'll obviously greet them and most importantly, trying to understand what they want. What do they want from a dish? What do they like? What flavors are they after? So if they're looking for something that's not too distinct in flavor, then I'd recommend the cod or whatever we've got on the menu. If they are looking for something with a bit of a kick, something with a bit more rustic in flavor, then the halibut or the skate will be something they're after. Or again, it largely depends what we have on our specials, because sometimes our chefs are feeling creative and they've got a variety of sauces which complement the fish nicely. So albeit it could be a bit spicy, it could be tangy, or it could even be fruity. So sometimes I'll suggest in that respect, try one that's a bit funky, or maybe try one that's a bit not say plain, but something that's a bit more mellow. And then we go from there. I mean, not only do we do that with the food, we do that with the wine as well. It's important that the customers push their boundaries a bit, because if they, it's very easy to say, I'll order what I know, but we want them to try something different. And we're confident anyway that they'll love our dishes. They've always been a success. And it's nice because I think that's how you build up a good rapport. They know that what you're suggesting is good, and they'll come back and they want to try different things. So I always try, certainly from my perspective, like to push the customers to go beyond their boundaries and try something different. And that's what eating out is about, really.
Oh dear. As of now, I must confess with my dear listeners, it does sound mouth-watering in it. Oh, as you're promised, I've got my lovely friend, Chia-ying, to share with us her feedback at Fish Central.
We went to Fish Central one evening for dinner and we had a squid salad for starter. For the main, I had haddock while my boyfriend had cod. We also ordered some chips and mushy peas. The tartar sauce was complimentary. The baby squids were very fresh and tender. The chips and mushy peas were reasonably good, but the best, of course, was the fish. The batter was very crispy and the fish inside was moist and bursting with freshness. Service was great at Fish Central. The waiters were friendly and attentive. The atmosphere was relaxing. There were quite a lot of families and some regulars. I can see why people are coming back. The quality of the seafood, the service, and the price all makes Fish Central a rare gem in the local community. We will be visiting again in the near future.
It's really a blessing that I heard you say, the customers can really explore their boundary, and you are there to help them, just to try new things, the novelty, and when it comes to tasting, the traditional dish. And it's really amazing that at Fish Central, you could have that flexibility when it comes to customers ordering the dish. So
Absolutely.
When it comes to Angel Station, you just mentioned it's in proximity to the restaurant. If the customer decides to visit your restaurant from a distance, could you also advise them on where to go, apart from your restaurant? For example, when they dine at your restaurant, they also want to combine with other, places to go to.
Yeah, that's a good question. And generally the main consensus is a lot of our customers, especially tourists, when they do come to our restaurant, they're either exhausted from a full day of traveling within London, or normally when they come to our restaurant, it normally follows up by a show. So we've got a variety of theatres, we've got a design museum not far from us. And again, as I said, we're not very far from the main attractions. London Eye, Big Ben, Oxford Street, merely probably about 10-15 minute drive, or if you're feeling lucky, that's probably about half an hour walk, but the weather's nice. So it really depends if what time of the day you're certainly coming. As I said, if it's towards the end of the evening, we've got a variety of cinemas, we've got barbecue and theatre, or if you just want a general stroll, we're not very far from some of the beautiful parks that's around the UK, around London, sorry. where we are. So we're it's not like we're just secluded away from isolation. There are some nice attractions, and the bustling city of London, all the bars that Angel and Old Street offer.
Isn't it brilliant? It's just all within the proximity.
Absolutely, and we're very fortunate, and we're happy. Our customers have never had a problem finding us. So we're happy. We're very, very lucky to be in a good location.
Yeah. So for the listeners who want to stay in touch with you, have you got any recommendations? For example, on what social media platforms can they follow you?
So predominantly we've got Facebook running at the moment. So I think that's how we connected. So we like to inform our customers. Sometimes we have music nights. So we tend to kind of engage with our customers to let them know that's happening. By not every stretch of the imagination, we're trying to improve our website. So our website is live, it's running, but predominantly we've got Facebook. We're not quite on Instagram at the moment, but we will be looking at that. You can reach us certainly on Facebook, which we're very responsive, or on website fishcentral.co.uk.
Well, that's absolutely lovely. So for audience in London, why not pay a visit to taste this iconic British dish at Fish Central? Well, I would like to say a big thank you very much to Ziya for bringing Fish Central to the audience. All the best to you and the restaurant.
Thank you so much for your time, and it was an absolute pleasure to engage with you and your lovely audience. Enjoy the rest of your day, evening, wherever you are in the world.
喜欢本集访谈的内容吗？如果你是用 Apple Podcasts 收听，欢迎你为 Excuse 英国腔评价与留言。你的鼓励是我最大的动力，也欢迎你加入 Excuse 英国腔在脸书的社团，你可以直接与其他对跨文化沟通或喜欢英国的听众互动，还有机会与受访者直接的交流哦。如果你想实际支持我继续制作更多来自全球多元的访谈，也欢迎到本期介绍下的连结，请我喝杯珍奶吧。感谢收听与支持。如果你喜欢这一系列的双语访谈，并想增强英文能力，也欢迎到脸书或 IG 私讯我哦。Cheers, mate! Until next time, bye for now.